bid has been launched by the federal government to rescue the missing Chibok schoolgirls, and this is coming from the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. He told journalists in Abuja today that the government will not relent until it fulfills its promise to rescue the abducted girls.
Security agencies since the beginning of 2016 have not only remained committed, but have also taken the lead to resolve the Chibok girls issue. In spite of the current division amongst members of the terrorist group, which has seriously affected efforts to release girls, renewed efforts have commenced using our trusted assets and facilitators. However, this job requires diligence and ability to deal with a group that can easily change its demands without notice. The government and the security agencies remain committed to ensuring that the Chibok girls are safely released in fulfillment of the presidential mandate and promise. Let me emphasize that the government appreciates the resilience of Nigerians in the fight against insurgency and terrorism. I will continue to call on fellow Nigerians to hold on, because much is ahead, and therefore support Mr. President's resolve on this matter. I cannot end this without appealing to the parents and relations of the Chibok girls to say, we are with you and we feel your pains, and we shall not relent until we succeed in bringing home our girls and every other citizen abducted by the group.
We're still getting reactions on the state of the economy, and as the federal government steps up efforts to turn the economy around, governors under the aegis of the Nigerian Governors Forum have pledged their support. Rising from an emergency meeting which held at the presidential villa, the governors also resolved to treat as a national emergency the recent outbreak of polio in Nigeria.
We are going to engage with the Federal Ministry of Health and Minister of Health so that an urgent attention should be given to the Lassa fever. We actually look at the Lassa fever as an endemic for a very long time, 1950s, since before independence. And the African nations could not be able to come up with the lasting solution to the issue of Lassa fever. So we are going to engage with the Minister of Health to discuss and find a lasting solution to the Lassa fever. On the issue of polio resurgence, after a briefing to the forum, members resolved that this must be treated as a national emergency and agree to activate the state task force on the polio, while the primary health care to be led by our deputy governors. Governors also committed to pay in their counterpart funding toward meeting their obligation to the polio eradication.
The President will leave Nigeria on Sunday, September the 18th, to participate in the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, says President Muhammadu Buhari is scheduled to meet investors interested in the nation's critical sectors. President Buhari will also deliver Nigeria's statement at the opening of the general debate of the Assembly on the theme, The Sustainable Development Goals, a Universal Push to Transform Our World. In addition, the President is expected to attend a summit hosted by the UN on large movements of refugees and migrants. The summit is expected to come up with a blueprint for improved international response to enhance protection of migrants and refugees. Let's take a look at some business news for the day. Here's Emana Amawe.
First Bank.
Welcome to Business News. U.S. ratings agency Standard & Poor's has lowered its long-term foreign and local currency sovereign credit rating on Nigeria from B+ to B, citing low oil prices and severe shortages of foreign exchange as the debt office prepares to issue its first Eurobond since 2013 by the end of this year. The agency, however, revised the country's sovereign credit outlook from negative to stable, but expects real GDP growth to contract by 1% in 2016, a weak 2% recovery in 2017 and 4% growth in 2018. The downgrade is the latest blow to the country's economy, which shrank consecutively in the last 2 quarters. Both Moody's Investors Service and Fitch Ratings downgraded Nigeria to 4 levels below investment grade in the first half of 2016. And Nigeria's headline inflation index is at 17.6% for the month of August, slightly beating some analysts' forecast of 17.7%. Data released by the National Bureau of Statistics today shows that the August inflation was higher than 17.1%, the rate recorded in July. According to the data, the major divisions responsible for the increase in the headline index were housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuel, education and transportation services. The food index rose to 16.4% in August, up by 0.6% from 15.8% posted the previous month. The urban index increased to 19.3% from 18.9%, while the rural index increased to 15.5% in July. And the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf, has commended the presidential initiative on the ease of doing business in the country, but says there's more to be done, including the acceleration of the budget implementation process and a relaxation of tight monetary policies.
You need to accelerate the process of budget implementation to have a value, to have an impact on the current state of the economy. You also need to look at the monetary policy, because if you are talking about investment, you need funds, particularly from the domestic investor perspective. At a time like this, we should be looking at how we can relax all these tight monetary policy conditions. You know, we just talk about the CRR at 22%, you have the MPR, so you have the liquidity ratio. You know, all these things are making the investment environment very difficult in terms of funding. And to even make matters worse, government is borrowing at 18%. If government is borrowing at 18%, which is risk-free, for an investor, that means you have to pay a premium on that. So that is why you have a situation where investors are now borrowing at 20, 22, 25, 30%, depending on the profile of your business. That is not in tune with the desire to stimulate the economy, with the desire to also, stimulate investment.
And the local bourse sustained the positive momentum at the close of trading today as the all-share index rose further by 0.48%, while market capitalization increased by 45.7 billion naira. Here's Millicent Walker with a summary of the day's trading figures.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Ahead of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee meeting next week, the local equities market rallied further by nearly 0.5% on Friday, ending the week positive for the 6th consecutive session. Top among 25 gainers were Cornell, Airline Services and PZ, while Portland Paints, Fitson and ICO were the major decliners from a list of 15 equities in that category. Now, market activity was moderate with a turnover of 228.93 equities traded in 3,617 transactions for over 2.10 billion naira. Financial giant FBN Holdings drew the highest patronage from investors with over 56.4 million shares and was followed by FCMB and UBA. And that's the Stock Market Report. I am Millicent Walker.
Thank you, Millicent. As the countdown begins for next week's key interest rate decision from the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of Japan, global equities ended Friday's session mostly negative as investors digest key inflation data from the United States. That's Business News Tonight. I'm Imana Amawe. It's back to Ijoma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Imana. Airtel Nigeria has commenced Season 3 of its corporate social responsibility initiative tagged Airtel Touching Lives. The managing director of Airtel Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ogunsoya, says this season will focus on poverty alleviation and vocational training for the less privileged. After 2 seasons of bringing smiles and creating unique opportunities for development, Airtel Nigeria has launched the Airtel Touching Lives Season 3. This season's objective is captured in its theme, Grooming Tomorrow's Leaders. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Airtel Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ogunsoya, says it's a call to action.
I hope you help us spread this message. We just call in other corporates to join us as we imbibe a culture of giving in our communities, a culture where you give and you don't expect anything in return.
In spite of the economic downturn, Airtel affirms its devotion to giving hope to the less privileged. A beneficiary of Airtel's initiative shares an inspiring story of how his fortunes were changed despite losing both hands during the Liberian War.
My experience living with disability, my experience sharing with my people, trying to reintegrate myself, get rehabilitation, exposed me to what it means to live with disability in Nigeria. The empowerment from Airtel to people with disabilities are real. Based on that support, we successfully secured audience with the Senate President. 3 months later, the Senate passed the disability bill into law.
Lots of goodwill messages followed, as some special guests commended the telecommunications company for standing side by side with those in need.
Looking at the lives that have been changed, by just seeing that short video that I saw today, I can say without any equivocation that Airtel's Touching Lives.
As Airtel kicks off Touching Lives Season 3, what differences should be expected this year?
We just expect many more nominations so that we can pick those who need the support the most. I don't want this environment to be a limiting factor. I want this to be the best ever. So send in your nominations, talk to your friends, talk to your communities. We are willing to support as many causes as possible.
A friend in need is a friend indeed. While Airtel expects more entries this year, it also seeks support from well-meaning Nigerians to carry on with this cause. Next on the news at 10, Ballon d'Or Award returns to France football after FIFA ends 6-year deal with the French magazine. And that will be on sports. Please stay with us.